Welcome back, everybody, to the Rockman Power Hour. My name is Jason Rockman. Really excited to be back here again this week. And just want to remind you right out of the gate, please, if you are enjoying this podcast, like and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, very important that you subscribe. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think of the show. We're not scared of criticism. We actually welcome it. And all of you listening on your podcast streaming platforms, make sure you subscribe as well, and you'll never miss an episode. So today on the Rockman Power Hour, we have got an absolute legend in heavy metal. And from my own hometown here in Montreal, this guy has been around for a long, long time. He's seen everything. This band has been in existence for a hell of a long time, and they're putting out a new album called Synchro Anarchy. It's actually out now, and I highly suggest you check out this record. I'm talking about Michel Away Langevin from the band Voivod. But there's no point in going any further before I check in with my co-host, Ryan Stick. Ryan, how are you?
I like how you said, like, we welcome criticism. Like, I don't.
I know, right?
Like me no matter what.
Dude, let me tell you something. I like you, I'm a sensitive flower. Okay, we're both very sensitive. And but we're very sensitive, and we both behind closed doors, you and I have had some of the best shit talking sessions about how hard it is in this industry. But at the end of the day, I think we're both people that are somewhat loving. We're always there for our friends. We're always there to lend a hand. And I like you, and I don't want to speak for you. I'm all about kindness. I'm always all about trying to be kind and putting my hand out there for my fellow human. But not everybody's like that.
No, but you know what's really cool though is that Away. Well, what does Michel want to be called? Away? It's a Michel Away.
I don't think Michel cares as long as you just don't call him late for dinner.
There you go. Like, he's the type of guy that's been around forever, and you have like rock greats like Dave Grohl praising him for 20-minute videos in a row on YouTube, which I was watching right before this. And he could not seem like less of an egotistical person, like, considering he made that much of a dent in the lives of so many musicians that have gone on to sell millions of records. He's still the same guy. He's an excellent drummer, and he is almost as cool as your t-shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Studio House Designs. Shout out to them. They always keep us looking fresh. Listen, Ryan, this is a big one for me. Personally, this is a big one for the metal community. Anytime you get a chance to talk to one of the founding members of Voivod, it's a celebration. If you're a fan of heavy metal, of progressive rock, this guy has been at the forefront of that movement forever. He was doing this stuff before it was cool. And what I love about Voivod is every maybe 5 to 10 years, there's a cycle that happens where they become really, really popular, but always relevant throughout all of it. And I'm, again, excited to have on the podcast today Michel Away Langevin from the band Voivod. All right, really, really happy to have on the show with me today Michel Langevin. A lot of people know him as Away, drummer and conceptual artist and kind of idea maker for the band Voivod. Michel, I'm really, really happy to have you on the podcast. I've been a fan of Voivod for a long, long time. And I have so many memories of this band throughout my own musical journey that it's always a pleasure to chat with you. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
My youngest memory of Voivod was moving into a jam space with my band in 1992 or 90, I think it was 92. On the corner of Papineau and Notre Dame, and going into this jam space. And I think our locale was room 400 and something. And I remember we were up on the floor and people were like, Voivod jam there. And it was like, what? So I remember I would see you guys walking around the building and sometimes. And what I always remember about you is you were always so kind to everyone. And it just seemed to, it always stayed with me that, you got a band who's, recognized and respected worldwide, but are so humble. And I think that's something that stayed with you. Am I right?
Probably, I can't recall being mean to somebody unless they were mean to me first.
Yeah.
But you know what? I remember actually, that building, we were the first band in there. I believe it was in '85.
Right.
We had to build the jam space. It was like abandoned, basically. And then all of a sudden, like more bands came in, like Northern Vultures and Scum, and and somebody thought, oh, we can make a big building with now it's a U-Haul building with tons of bands playing. But what I remember from the early '90s is walking down the corridor, and every single band is playing Smell Like Teen Spirit and Enter Sandman, but their own version, but all together at the same time.
I remember that. And it's funny because that was right around the time we were, my band was starting to play Slaves on Dope. And I remember, I think we were the only people in the band that were playing in the building that were playing Faith No More. Because everybody was, you're right, everybody would be playing Metallica stuff from the Black Album, or they would be playing early grunge.
The grunge thing was so big. It was actually hard for Voivod to get noticed when we released Engerat and The Outer Limits. Everybody's eyes were turned towards Seattle. So these albums sort of went unnoticed, but nowadays many people worship them, while people into Voivod,
Yeah, and it's funny because what I've always liked about Voivod is you guys have always stayed the course. You've been consistent. You've put out records no matter what's come your way, no matter what hardships the band's been through. You've always had this, at least from the outside looking in, it always seems like this band's always been about forward motion. We're just going to put our heads down and we're going to get it done. And it's almost like Voivod fans, new fans, it's like cyclical. You see younger people getting into Voivod, and then, there might be dips a little bit depending on the musical trend, but you always have a fan base, but there's always these peaks where, oh my God, everyone's getting into Voivod again. And it's fun when you're someone who's known the band for so long, to see that happen, because it's like, there's this new appreciation.
Yeah, right now, we are enjoying a really great momentum, I must say. And for the past, 5 years, it's just been going upwards, and the tour for the Wake was it was packed everywhere. The album was super well received, and so there are many generations into Voivod now, and we have respect from many people from different scenes. So it's pretty interesting. So we're just enjoying the ride, but we do move forward all the time. Even during the pandemic, we try to have as many releases as possible,
And I one of the things, I guess one of the highlights for me last year was seeing you guys perform 2 of your albums front to back, during a live stream, which was so well done. It was well done. And it was cool because I saw a lot of people take to the internet and take to Zoom and try to do things, but you guys did it at a whole other level. I mean, it sounded good. It looked good. The projections behind were good. How much fun did you have playing those 2 records from front to back?
It was really amazing. A lot of work. It was so much work to put together these albums again, because they were like, we hadn't played some of the songs for decades, really. So it was so much work that we didn't really have time to work on the new album while doing that. But even like in 2020, for Snake's birthday in August 2020, it was the first what we call Hypercube session. And it was the set list we played during the Wake tour. And we learned a lot from that, but we did it because we missed getting together so much. It was just as soon as we were allowed to get into a studio with sanitary protocols, we did it. And we did one of the first online shows, we just wanted to repeat the experience again last year. So we learned Dimension Hatros and Nothing Face, played Dimension Hatros on Rocky's birthday, and Nothing Face on my birthday. We only play on the members' birthdays.
I saw that. It was cool. I got to watch the Nothing Face one, and I love that record. I love the production on that record. The stuff that you guys ended up doing with Glenn Robinson, and it's just a really, really rad record. And to see it played from front to back was a treat, because a lot of bands will go out and they'll do that tour, they'll do the tour. Well, we'll take the album, we'll play the album from front to back. But it was cool to see it in more of a controlled environment. It was nice. And the idea, like, I do believe that the internet and computers, there is a lot of good that can come from them. There's great real connections that can happen for people everywhere in the world. It's not all negative, No,
of course not. I mean, while doing the online shows, and we did some of, what happened was when we came back from touring with Grohl in Europe at the end of 2019, we took a bit of a break for the holidays. Then in early January, we started jamming again, the same place where you were talking about.
You guys still rehearse there, right?
Yes. Well, during the pandemic, we ended up putting our stuff into storage eventually.
Yeah.
And because the whole place was closed.
Yeah.
And so it was in mid-March that everything closed. But we had recorded some improvisations and riffs and some stuff, and then everything shut down. So we were looking at what we had in the bank, and during the Wake tour, we had recorded the Montreal Jazz Fest. Yeah. And also the Quebec City Summerfest. So we started to do some live releases. But in the meantime, we were working on the album with what we had. But we were, since we were doing that while socially distancing. So technology was really, really handy. And the internet, we started sharing files with a Dropbox folder, synced up with Logic Pro, and slowly built the album like that. But it was only I would say, in June of last year that we were able to really go into the studio to morph it into Voivodian material. Yeah. And we had to deliver. So we had to deliver the album in September, end of September. So it was quite a rush. But I was prior to getting into the Radicart studio with Francis, I was programming the drums on the computer. So all that technology really helped us to build demos. But when time came to go into the studio is when the festivals in Quebec, in the province of Quebec, started. Yeah. So it was super. You saw one of the shows at the FME. It was really old school, like in the Black Sabbath or Deep Purple days, in a way, where we would play during the weekend and record during the week. Yeah.
Well, so that's it. And it was nice. And it was really, really nice. Like that, again, last year, it's funny because last year being the year that it was, there were a lot of highlights for me as a Voivod fan, because, I got to see you guys do one record that I absolutely love. And then I got to see you guys play at FME, which was so much fun. And it just shows you that, again, going back to what I said at the beginning, this band will continue to push on no matter what. And it seems like it's a train that's not going to stop. The Voivod train keeps going. And I think at the nucleus of that is, I would imagine, is you. I mean, I think.
Well, it's.
And I know it's everybody, but I mean, I know that passion for Voivod, just, right down to the aesthetic, comes from you.
Well, in terms of arranging the songs, it's definitely Chewy. Okay. Snake is the lyricist. Rock is sort of the glue holding everything together.
So would it be fair to say you're the quarterback?
Well, I'm definitely the archivist of the band.
The coach.
Like, let's say this year, I always make sure that there is some product in the making, because it keeps the name out there, and also the Voivod has a really loyal following, and we think they deserve something new all the time. So I'm always working on reissues. Like this year, aside from the new album, there are also vinyl reissues of the MCA catalog and the Noise catalog.
Wow.
So the Noise catalog would be in a box set, and the MCA catalog last year, Outer Limits was released on vinyl, and this year is Nothing Face and Angel Rat. And there's also the documentary with Felipe Belalcazar, who did Death by Metal. We are really hoping to release it this year. So there's always stuff going on. I'm always working full-time. I've been working full-time on Voivod for 39 years now. And for the 40th anniversary next year, there's a lot of stuff planned as well. We would love to re-release the album we did with Jason in 2003, the self-titled album. And for the 20th anniversary of this album. And also, there is a book in the making by Jeff Wagner that we want to release next year for the 40th anniversary as well. So in a way, I'm more like the headquarters of Voivod.
Yeah, I think, well, that's it. I mean, you're kind of like I'd said, you're kind of like the coach, you know, you're kind of like the guy that keeps it, you know, like it almost seems like you're the one that'll, you know, people will come to you, or you'll assign people to do things, or it's just, it seems like you guys have a very nice working relationship in the band, and everybody knows their role, you know?
The chemistry is super fantastic. It's my fifth lineup. I've been in every lineup, and I love all of them. And I'm proud of every single album. But I noticed this lineup is on fire, and that's why we decided to document it during the tour for the Wake. So we had a couple of releases, like the End of Dormancy EP and the Lost Machine Live LP, but the chemistry is so great. We get along really well, and it's just too bad that the touring was cut short with the pandemic. But we just can't wait to go back on the road. It's just that we had a world tour planned for the release of the album in February. But right now, the Euro leg for this spring is already postponed to the fall.
Wow!
So we're just having our fingers crossed for the tour in North America in the summer. We'll see what happens. If it goes awry, you know, and we can't tour, I'm sure we will go back to revisiting albums and do online shows. Like we could probably play Angel Rat, The Outer Limits, or the new album, or Killing Technology. I believe this year's is it's the 35th anniversary of Killing Tech. It might be a good occasion. It might be a good occasion to revisit that one.
Oh yeah. And talking about Synchro Anarchy, new record, there's been some really, really cool singles that have been released so far. The video for Planet Eaters is great and so topical. I mean, it's so, you know, we've touched on some of that stuff, you know, with technology, and you guys have always been, I think that you've always touched on how, you know, I think there needs to be a balance between the ecosystem and technology, and they have to kind of find a way to coexist, because there is that threat that technology will eventually eat it. And there just seems to be a lot of interesting imagery going on in the Planet Eaters video. Can you tell me a bit about, well, I've got my dog who's visiting here. Look, here's her dog.
Yeah, awesome.
Can you tell me a bit about the conceptualization of that video? Because, you know, the song is great. And I want to talk a little bit about the single that came out second, but Planet Eaters, just the video itself, just as an experience, you know, oral and visual, it's something else. Can you tell me a bit about the conceptualizing, taking your drawings and making that into a video with the director?
Well, it really started last year, early last year, when this fan video popped online for the song Nothing Face.
Yeah.
And the video was done with an Amiga computer by a fan who did it at school in '91.
Wow.
And you know, I work on a Commodore Amiga from 87 to 91-ish, you know, and I know that what the guy had done in '91 with what he had in his hands was phenomenal. Yeah. So it's just that he rediscovered a copy of it 30 years later and put it online. And so I immediately contacted Pierre Menetrier, who did that. And I asked him to do the video for the first single, and I was convinced the result would be fantastic, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's something else. It's like, to me, it's up there with, you know, when I was watching it, all I kept thinking I was watching The Wall for the first time.
Well, The Wall, you know, the movie The Wall, it had such a strong impact on my art, my visuals. It's one of my turning point movie. What happened was since we were like last year, since we were playing in the weekend and recording during the week, we had many different sessions. So every session I was doing a drawing, and black and white drawing, influenced by the music and the lyrics and what we were doing at the studio at that time. And by the end of the session, I had many drawings. So all this will be available in the booklet of the album, but I just supplied Pierre with these drawings. And then he started asking me for factories, spaceships, and elements. And then I went through all my black and white art through the years. So basically it was art from 1983 to 2021. Wow. So he included all of that in a very spectacular way. And the song Planet Eaters, it came a bit of a, it was a bit of a surprise in the sense that it became our favorite song after the whole process was done and the album was mixed. And we were about to master it. We were looking for the first single, and we all loved it. It was everybody's favorite song, but we didn't think about it when we were writing and recording it at all, you know? Yeah. And it probably has all the ingredients of what's going on the album, but also all of the ingredients of it's sort of an overview of our career in a way. Yeah. Well, that's it. That's it. It almost seems autobiographical, you know. It seems like there's a, and the video ties in really well with that. You know, I've talked about it before. You know, and you and I have chatted about it. The visual aspect of the band is very, very important. You know, and the style to your drawings. I mean, you know, I'm wearing one of the collabs that you did with Rock Cult. Like there's, and you know, I interviewed the Foo Fighters in California, and I brought this I got this from Dave. So do you still do a lot of artwork outside of the band? Are there still people asking you to do stuff like this, you know? And did you ever fancy yourself as an artist, or was it just something that you started doing that you did more and more? I always wanted to. There are a lot of angles in your question. In terms of the visuals for Voivod, it definitely comes from the first Iron Maiden album. That's really where, it's really where I understood that it was very important for the album cover to stick out in a store. In a store, absolutely. So that's what happened to me when I saw the first Iron Maiden album. And so the War and Pain cover in '84 is sort of an homage to the first Iron Maiden album cover, you know. And but in terms of doing stuff for other people, I was doing art for magazines and other bands in the 80s, but not that much because I was working a lot with Voivod and some in the 90s as well. But it's really in '98 when we crashed in Germany on the way to Wacken, and then we stopped for a year, and then because Eric was at the hospital for like 9 or 10 months, and then I was contacted by people to do some art, and strangely enough, it was from the hip hop world. I was going to say that, you know, I talked to Ill Bill a little while ago, and I said I was from Montreal, and the first thing he said is, "Do you know Away?" And I said, "Yeah, I know who Michel is. Of course." He's like, "He did the nonfiction," and he just kept gushing about how much he loved Voivod and how much he loved, you know, nonfiction, for sure. Yeah, he's the first one who contacted me. He said, "Oh, I want a Voivod logo type, you know, a Voivod type logo." So I did a very nice sort of black metal logo. He's like, "No, I want like a flip of your logo." Oh, okay. So so Ilbert contacted me, and and then it led to other people noticing, and like Danko Jones, and then eventually Dave Grohl asked me to do the Probot cover. And it's funny, Il Bill from Nonfiction, they were playing at Fofun Electric, and all hip hop kids, and with sideways baseball caps and all that. And then they were all looking at me like, "Who's that hippie?" And then and then when Il Bill came out of the backstage, he parted the crowd and came to me and shook my hand.
Yeah,
it was super funny. And anyhow, these days I'm still doing that. Well, when the pandemic hit, I started my own online store, awayartpress.com, so I could make my art books available, and it has kept me super busy. I'm shipping these everywhere, and so I do that a lot. I'm working on a new book, that the art I did on the road with Voivod between 2008 and 2019.
Okay.
And that's my next publication. But I still do tattoo designs, t-shirt designs, front covers. I just did the Hell Shock front cover for the next album they're gonna release. So I do a lot of art on the side. Some projects more involved with the avant-garde scene on drums. I keep very busy, but I'm so busy with Voivod that
it's hard to keep both.
Oh yeah, but I'm really in the best of both worlds, doing music with Voivod and art at home peacefully,
I guess it's a nice contrast too, because if all your eggs were in one basket, it would be like times like now where it's stop and go. It could be really hard. But the fact that when music does slow down, you can pick up on the art, you can reach out to people and say, okay, I've got a bit more time. So I guess it's worked out nicely for you that you have a nice balance of the two, right?
It's great. What the only problem is right now that drums for me has always been my way of externalize my anxiety, and it's a good exercise, and so it's really what I miss the most. I can't set up a drum kit here, so I have to do a lot of thank God there is a big sea in the summer. I can do some bicycle around town and all that. But I miss playing drums all the time. We used to gather quite a lot at the jam space under the Jacques Cartier Bridge there. And but these days it's pretty rare, unfortunately. So that's what I miss. But thank God I have like an art design career on the side, and I'm slowly gonna rely on it more and more as I'm gonna slow down touring and all that.
And it's nice, and I think it's another way to make your mark on the world. You know what I mean? You're still able to make a contribution artistically, which is nice. But yes, I agree. I mean, it must be tough when you're used to the outlet.
But the good thing is with art, I will be able to do that till the end of time. It's just amazing because I didn't think, even in the 90s, at one point Voivod had a bit of a lower profile, and I was wondering, wow, like in 30 years, or am I going to be totally forgotten? But it's quite the opposite, where I have tons of people reaching out to me through my website and asking for art. And so I do a lot of ink as well for people, like commissioned art. So and since Voivod is getting more and more popular on my end, I benefit from that a lot.
Well, and it's nice because, like I mentioned, it's a band that always, that's always going forward. I was in New Jersey I was in New York in Coney Island at a Mastodon show. Bill and I are really good friends, and there were a couple of people backstage that I met, and we were talking, and they're like, "Where are you from?" I go, "I'm from Montreal." And immediately they said, "Do you know Voivod?" So I think it's pretty safe to say that you've cemented your legacy, if you will, in the metal community, in the art community. So, the guy 30 years ago who was wondering if he's going to make his mark, I think you're good.
Yeah, it's cool because for a while we didn't feel like we had an influence at all, musically, and then all of a sudden, bands started to pop up like Fear Factory, Meshuggah, and I was like, they must have listened to Voivod, but I wasn't sure until we shared stages at festivals around the planet where they told me, And these days, like the last time we played Heavy Montreal, I decided to go and watch Gojira.
Yeah.
I thought I would watch a couple of songs, and I watched the whole show with my jaw dropped to the floor.
Yeah, they're great.
And I swear I could hear some Voivodian chords in there and all that. But it's hard to tell at times. But I think we ended up having a good influence. If anything, I think we opened doors or showed some path down the road. Like, okay, you can explore krautrock, and you can explore modern classical or punk, and integrate that into your music. And these days with Rocky and Chewy, we sort of jumped into this fusion metal thing, where it's almost more jazzy. And but Snake and I, being the old punk trash, old school guys, we sort of keep that trash metal thing intact, but it's a great challenge for me that Voivod is developing further and further and further, and with Chewy's knowledge as an arranger, a composer, we jump back into prog mode, and it's just a great challenge for me to play drums on it. I love it.
Yeah. The new album Synchro Anarchy is coming out in February. It's a great record. I really encourage people to check it out. And Michel, thank you for taking the time to chat today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. And just keep being you, because you're awesome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And hopefully we'll see you soon in a venue.
Yeah, in the real world, not just in cyberspace.
So that's crazy, man. Like, sometimes you can leave an impression in the world. I always find it amazing when somebody can leave the world with something artistic they did that can make like an impact. But it's so cool that his art and his music are completely, they're connected, but at the same time, when you examine his work in the hip hop community, it couldn't be anything but different. And I love that story about him meeting that artist at Fafoons. Part of the crowd, and that's so cool.
So the Ill Bill. I mean, listen, can you talk about a guy that's more soft spoken and mild mannered, but so respected? I got to show this. I mean, I don't know if we can pull up that photo of me and Dave Grohl. I got the chance to go to interview the Foo Fighters for their album Concrete and Gold. And I asked Dave, do you have a copy of the Probot album? And he went across from the studio into their storage space, climbed up onto on a few boxes, and grabbed me a copy of it, which you see in the picture of me and Dave there. I have it here. And the last time I saw Michel, I asked him if he would mind signing it, and Snake as well, because he sings on it. But this is Michel who did the artwork for this. You're talking about Dave Grohl, arguably one of the most familiar faces in popular rock and roll. And he's attached to Michel, who's from our city, and Michel is commissioned to do the artwork for that. All the Voivod album covers are all done by Michel. They're all iconic, they're unique. And as you can see, I mean, these are works of art, and this guy is so multi-talented. And check it out, So when you're talking about the guys in nonfiction, a hip hop band that are so influenced by a prog metal band from Montreal and they love the aesthetic so much that they want that for their project. Well, that just tells you how talented Michel is.
Absolutely, man. And what's really so cool about that album art coming from him is that I am one of those people that thinks that an album cover art can kill an album before you even listen to it.
Mm.
I have heard albums differently based on their crappy album cover art, and I've forgiven terrible albums for being. I've thought that bad albums were amazing because of their great cover art.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that they are so not DIY, but they really keep it in-house when it comes to everything Voivod. And that's why musically they could be all over the place, but it all feels like the same band, and members can come and go. But, you know, because of Michel, aka Away, you know, there's this heartbeat that Voivod has had from day one to present day that you know, hasn't died at all. And that's so cool.
And you know, you look at the fact that there's so much respect on Voivod's name and on Michel's name. You know, Jason Newstead leaving Metallica and then joining Voivod. I mean, leaving the biggest metal.
Do you know more about that? Can you tell me the story? Do you know anything about how Voivod and him came together? Because that, to me, that's how Voivod came on my radar, my poster radar.
A lot of people. So basically, you know, Voivod have been in the game for a long time. They've been really influential. And they're a band that's been highly respected for decades by the metal community. You know, I think I shared in the chat. I went to go to a Mastodon show to see Bill, and I was backstage, and Bill introduced me to a couple of people that were from Jersey, and he's like, "Oh, this is my friend Jason from Montreal," and they're like, "You're from Montreal?" Yeah, I can't do the Jersey accent. I'm not going to try. They said, "You're from Montreal?" I said, "Yeah." They go, "Man, do you know Voivod?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, actually, I kind of do know the guys. I mean, I've chatted with them a couple of times, and I used to practice next to them at this practice place in Montreal called Cité 2000. And they were like, "Are you kidding me? That's so cool." I'm like, and it is cool because they're just that band. And so when Metallica, you know, who love Voivod, you know, everybody loves Voivod. All the old school rock guys, new school people love that band because they're just different. They're unique. Nobody sounds like them. And they're pioneers. So when you get a guy like Jason Newstead that exits from Metallica, and then due to you know, a perfect timing where they needed someone to play bass, he just slides in and plays bass with Voivod. I mean, they were on the Ozfest with Jason Newstead on the second stage playing bass. I mean, you got to talk about Newstead being in Metallica during their entire meteoric rise. You know, from And Justice for All into the Black Album, and then all those 90s records. And then he joins Voivod from Montreal. It gave Voivod another huge push. And it was just, I think a lot of people were just cheering from the sidelines that were fans of the band from the whole time, saying, "Man, look at that. That's, you know." And they did a, during the last year, they did a couple of live streams. They played all of the album Nothing Face, which was just announced to be reissued on vinyl for a Record Store Day. They played all of that album in its entirety. And then after, they did an after party on Zoom. And if you bought a ticket, you were able to go to the VIP after party, which was really cool. So it was basically a big Zoom chat, and everybody was on screen. It was moderated by our friend Matt McGackie, who did a phenomenal job with that. And guess who pops up on the Zoom? Jason Newstead. He was watching the live stream of the record and just gushed about Away, and just said, you know, there are drummers out there that play drums, but nobody goes in and plays drums the way this guy does, because he doesn't play to a click track. He doesn't do he goes in and he does stuff one take, two takes. This band does that. They don't, you know, and there's not many bands that can play the kind of technical stuff that they're playing. And it was so fun to watch Jason Newstead in this Zoom chat with everybody gushing about Voivod. And, you know, the guys are just taking it in stride. They're like, "Oh yeah, you know, they're not, their heads aren't blowing up. They're just real rad, down to earth dudes." And everybody in that band is really talented. I mean, man, I you know, I've seen them so many times. The last time I saw them at Ephemer, which is a emerging music festival that I go to every year in Hoynaganda up in Abitibi. And it was just so fun to see them. It was just so fun to see them live in a small room. And they're just unique. So it was a real treat to have him on today. So, when someone's from your hometown, Ryan, you always want to cheer for them, right? And especially when they're as good as they are.
Speaking of Montreal, hometown and all that, like our buddy, Mike Babbins, I got to give a shout out to him. When I started hanging out with Mike and he was reintroducing me to why I should love 80s Motley Crue, because at that point I had just known 90s Motley Crue.
Oh my God, poor you.
I know, so sorry. I know, but he was that guy in my life that just kept showing me bands, countless amounts of musical knowledge, and he was always waving the flag of Voivod, and how excited he was that Heavy MTL was happening and Voivod was going to be playing. And the first time I ever saw Voivod was they were opening up for Judas Priest.
Yep.
And that was a really cool show to see them somewhere that big. But my favorite Voivod memory is when they were playing a smaller stage, not small stage, but a smaller stage over the meadow and through the woods at Heavy MTL in their old lineup. And it was just really cool to be in that crowd because, the bigger band was playing, but all the people who knew their shit were all collectively watching Voivod instead of one of the headliners. And it was during Slipknot, actually.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I love Slipknot, so I was like, but my buddy Jay is just like drunk as hell. He's like, no, we're watching Voivod.
Yeah.
I'm like, where are they? He's like, we will find them.
And that's the thing, like I'm sure the guys in Slipknot, I guarantee you at least 4 or 5 out of those 9 guys probably wanted to be on the side of the stage watching Voivod. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. And again, we have to give it up to Michel for his artwork. I think when we were chatting, I was wearing a Rock Cult hoodie, and Rock Cult did a collaboration with Michel. So it just shows you like he's always doing stuff. He's always doing stuff creatively, and his art is amazing. As you know, Ryan, I collect a lot of stuff, and I think one of my things I want to try to get in the next few years, I'd love to get an original piece from him. Because I just love his style. It's so unique. So that was really, really fun to have him on today. It was something else.
Yeah, man.
I got to get you out there. You got to go. You should start with Nothing Face. That's the record you got to start with.
Oh, I thought you were just describing me. I'm like, okay.
No. You got to start with the album Nothing Face.
When it comes to my face, me and Jason Newstead have something in common. We have a common angry bass face.
Hey,
something happens to our teeth and our jaw. It becomes something else. But yeah.
So Ryan, next week on the show, we're going to be doing an episode all focused on movies, and we have got the director of Studio 666. This is the Foo Fighters horror movie. BJ McDonald is going to be joining us, as well as we're going to be talking to Dennis Haysbert, who, if you watch 24, he was the president on 24. He was also the voice for the Allstate commercial forever. He also was in Major League. He was in the movie Heat, the Michael Mann movie, with the greatest ensemble cast in the history of film. So we're going to be chatting with him. And we're going to be chatting with Matt Reeves, who is the director of The Batman.
Yeah, that's not something you're just supposed to, casually put out the low. Oh yeah, by the way, Matt Reeves, director of The Batman, directed some of the most amazing Planet of the Apes movies out there. No big deal, just Matt Reeves.
But yeah, we're gonna chat with Matt Reeves. How excited are you to see The Batman?
I'm excited to see most things after the last 2 years, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to seeing a Batman that is probably, I'm assuming, going to be as critically acclaimed as the Joker, when the DCEU doesn't really worry about what Aquaman's doing in his movie. Just make a movie, make it great.
Yeah.
Who will it work with the other movies? Who cares? Just do what DC does great. Just make a one shot. Killing Joke, that's a one shot.
Listen, I think when they did Joker, everything changed in that culture. I think DC and Warner were like, hey man, we can do this. We can just go out on our own, do these things, and look how well Joker did. So Pattinson's Batman, I have seen the movie, but I'm under embargo and I can't say anything until February 28th. That's what's
nice.
So all I can say is Pattinson's Batman is something to be seen, I'm sure.
For those of you listening in the podcast form, Jason is breaking out into expressive dance. And
all right, we're gonna wrap up. You got things to do. I got things to do. And again, Ryan, thanks again for hanging out. It's always fun.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. We got some huge announcements when it comes to the podcast as well. We've got some really great friends coming on board, which I think people are going to be let's just say it's going to get a little saucy on the Rockman Power Hour.
It's going to get super hot, but mildly spicy. Yeah, it's great.
My thanks again to my co-host Ryan Stick. I would also like to thank our producer Julia Kajerski and all of you for joining us. And Michel Away Langevin from Voivod, thank you as well for being our guest. And to my friend Sarah Lutz from Looters for helping us hook that up. We will see you again next week. And don't forget, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and we will see you again on the Rockman Power Hour.